Ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome. This is your host, Paul Gaither. This is NCAA 2014. Glad to have you here, whether it be live or on the replay. I'm just glad to have you here. So, as the title says, you'll have to excuse me as I set things up with the microphone. As the title says, we're doing slider testing yet again. And you might think, when's this ever going to end? When is slider-itis ever going to end, Paul? Well, I'm telling you, I was thinking to myself the same question. And I wrote a comment in one of my own videos. I addressed it to Denny, a common viewer here. But I thought I'd talk to all of you here at the beginning. What's happened last week, 6 days ago since my last upload? So I haven't been live, and I'm reading here off the screen as well. So I wanted to both reply and use this as an opportunity to take notes. Here's my point of view. I think that we have decent offensive and defensive playbook, right? I think that we've figured out human and user running back ability, run defense, run blocking, and tackling. Okay? I think we figured out the QB play to the best of our ability so far. Okay? Things we still need to figure out is a bit about pass blocking for human and computer. We need to continue to figure out defensive back and wide receiver play. It was a bit loose. It's a bit tight, which is a good thing to have it a bit tight because we can loosen it up. So that's really what we're going to do. We're going to hit on this idea of offensive line play, like pass blocking. We're going to hit wide receiver and defensive back play. We're going to try to pay attention to both while we're playing. And as we're playing the music in the background, I was setting things up. I thought to myself, what would be better than going with FL Dagger for the moment? Flanker Dagger. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm going to read Denny's comments as we get through here. But step by step here. And question in the chat says, what are you playing on? Xbox, PS, whatever. I play on the Xbox 360. Not ignoring you, just seeing the comments right now. And, play on my Xbox 360. It's modified with the Aurora dashboard. And EA Sports coded PlayStation 2 games on the PlayStation 2. And they ported them to the Xbox and the GameCube. But they coded games on the 360 and ported them to the PlayStation 3. The dev kit, all that stuff for the Xbox came to EA Tiburon before PlayStation did. In fact, I believe the PlayStation was a year later than the Xbox. Whatever the case may be, PlayStation didn't even have Madden 06. So, yeah, Madden 06 was already, made on the Xbox 360, and PlayStation didn't even have a Madden game until 07. That's just an idea. And so, since they were coding things on that, they just ported them over. So, even the game is built for the Xbox. They also like the fact that, there's Xbox Live, accounts that are paid and blah, blah, blah. They wanted to hit online sales numbers and online play numbers and all that. So, there's several things that we need to look at, and I really appreciate the question here. One of the basic things is just to set the scene, set the mood, set the situation, is we need to look at our wide receivers quickly, just so you know what's going on. Their route running, specifically our starters, are 93 and 90. Then it drops off, there's an 80 guy, but it's basically the 70s. So it's a 93 and a 90, top end guys, and a 73 after that. Our tight end has got 83. That's going to be important. Then we're going to take a look at Oregon's coverage. So they've got two corners that can really match us up. If we go over to the man coverage rating, you're going to see 94 versus our 93. So they have a 1-point advantage. It should be a 50-50 fight right there. And then a 93 versus our 90. Right? And then they've got 87, 88, 85. They should lock us up in the slot and 4 wide receivers and all of that, right? One of the things I also said, let's put a pin in it, is how often does number 8, the free safety, cover our tight end? We're going to beat him. How often does the strong safety, number 25, cover our tight end? We're going to beat him. How often do the linebackers, the left outside linebacker, 66-man coverage, 65, and 60-man coverage, the safeties and linebackers do not have a chance against our tight end. Our wide receivers should get evenly matched or locked up. So that's important to me. And then we're going to check out the offensive line and defensive line blocking in a little bit. But that's on purpose. So again, we go standard pass, we scroll down, and we're going to go to FL Dagger. And it's because we're not asking the tight end to do anything crazy. We're basically asking the X receiver to run a curl underneath something, and B to run a route where he has to have a change of direction. And then Y, the slot receiver, not as in the tight end Y, basically the Thunder, whatever, the slot, he's just running a drag. It's not complicated. It's not a complicated route run, right? We're going to go by formation. We're going to match our 3 wide receivers with a nickel formation. And I think one of the first things that we're going to worry about doing is Overstorm Brave, so it's cover 0. One of the teaching principles of cover 0 is simply supposed to be that you don't get beat deep, right? And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the ball on the right hash mark, and we're going to peel it back to this side of the 50-yard line to about the 30 here. We're going to say we got a first down or whatever. Look, we're going to throw the football. All right. So there's too high, but we know that it's cover 0. The idea being that both corners do not want to get beat deep, so their animations should reflect that. While they should be in lockup coverage, we should also see some reflection of them respecting deeper breaking routes. So we just drop back, we let the computer handle everything, and he does whatever he wants to, just reminding everyone we're not throwing the football, the computer is. And remember, they have a 3-point advantage. I don't expect him to jump this route, but how does he react to it? He gets a little burnt out of his shoes, which is something I do not like. Do not like this overly aggressive seeing the break and then doing this. Just not a fan of that. We're still going to check some stuff out later. You see, I kind of don't like the way he slides and rocks and leans, and you see he's sliding. Don't like the slide. At least one foot should go back or something, but whatever. I don't like the slide, but it is what it is. We can't fix everything. And then also, as he's breaking down, then we do the oh my god, oh, animation. The losing animation. So, not a fan of that. Want to go into settings. Want to go into house rules. And currently, defensive pass interference is set to 30. Now, this is where we get back to Denny's comment here. So, I'm going to do what I can to show it on the screen. So, we're going to go here. We're going to go to sources. And with sources, we'll go like this. And here. And I believe it's better to just click on the video to pause it. And I also noticed that in my audio mixer, I have not actually had the video game audio on. And then we go down here to our comments here. So we can actually read them. Let me set up with my microphone to get this a little bit better, a little bit nicer, a little bit easier to view. I know I'm away from the microphone now, but let's also click zoomity zoom zoom zoom. And by zoom zoom zoom, it gets all the other crap off the screen. So, reading Denny's comment here, it says, I do think you're close enough to fine-tune as we go. Well, yeah, that's the goal, right? I like building goals. It makes the videos feel like they're not just random bullshit. Though there are times that we get caught and we find something and then we get distracted and we have to get back to it. You got us out of the unplayable realm and now we're just catering to our wants. I feel there's still things we need to address. Such a good problem to have. Absolutely agree. You said, no, this might sound repetitive, but this is where Denny said his brain gets stuck with the offensive-defensive line part. The penalty slider for roughing the passer determines how effective the pass rush is. Denny could be right. I personally disagree. I don't have any evidence to disprove him. I don't have any evidence to also support that. What I see in the game, my observation, not saying that it's proving him wrong, my observation is I just see the roughing the passer slider. It's touchy on how often the QB or whatever will just walk into and flop against a defender Like, oh, the defender will like touch, his elbow with a pinky and he'll flop and they'll get the flag, right? That doesn't mean Denny's not right. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have something to do with it. I find that like 55, 56, whatever, like there's a higher ability of getting the flag, and I was dropping it to 54 range. And that just has to do with the flag, nothing to do with what Denny's saying, but it's going to relate to this. He says, the closer to 0 the slider gets, the more effective all rushers are. More likely to get a win or a super win when rushing on dice rolls. It compresses all the rating levels up, leaving the difference between leaving little difference between 70 and 99. That could be true. The fact of the matter is that I don't play at 0. I play at 54 to 56. I think 54, 55 is about good because it has a decent number of penalties per game. We've had this conversation, so I'm going to do the basic summary version. There are very few penalties that actually get thrown in this video game, regardless of where you have the slider set. You rarely will see defensive pass interference unless the human commits it. You will almost never see offensive pass interference unless the human commits it. You'll never see defensive holding, illegal contact downfield, things like that. You'll never see past the 5 yards, like defensive holding. It doesn't happen. It's not even a slider to adjust. It's not a thing. Holding is a slider. It doesn't exist here. There's just so many things that just don't exist that you'll just never see as calls. But you also want like an appropriate penalties per game. And I would say the biggest thing defensively as a penalty that I like to talk about is getting that roughing the passer. It will erase interceptions. It will, even against crappy passes, it'll extend drives. You'll have like a 3rd and 21 or whatever, and he tries to throw a 7-yard pass, and you get a, roughing the passer, and it's 15 yards automatic first down. Like, the drive's extended. It's one of the things that adds a layer of difficulty to the game, human versus computer, is letting them extend drives. As a human, you can just decline the penalty if you want. You have that option if you feel it's getting like too much, but also I like to balance it 54, 55, whatever. And it'll also erase some of your computer guys' shitty interceptions, right? But the thing is, we're not doing it just to erase interceptions. Though that is a thing, like, when the video game starts throwing like 3, 4, 5 picks against you, and you're just like, you're going to blow them out. And they're like a much better team or whatever. It's like, there are times where you're just like, can you just like erase this or whatever? It almost feels good to erase it, but that's a side issue. The point is, there's a certain number of penalties per game. I believe the NFL low average is like 4.2 per game or something. I haven't looked it up in a long time, and the high end was just over 7, 7.5, 7.4 or whatever. And I find that you get in the 5-6 range per team when you have the roughing the passer slider high enough, when you have the holding slider high enough. I find that holding will happen on both pass and run plays. Clipping is more of a run play penalty when I see it happen. So I'm totally fine with having the holding penalty up a bit higher and actually having those plays that also kill offensive drives. Because just like you have roughing the passer will extend a drive for an offense, holding is like the ultimate drive killer. So I definitely like having a balance there. And I know that like we're getting off target of what Denny said, but when we talk about the slider, it's that multi-layered thing. Is I'm not playing with it at 0. And I still have the defensive line getting too many wins. So even if Denny is correct, we're not playing with it at that range. But the other thing is we're trying to get those flags thrown. And related to that is also, as I said, the holding slider. I don't know if he mentions it later here in this post, but he has mentioned in the comment, and I will address this. There was the idea of like, oh, lower the holding, it's going to make the blocking better because they feel that they can just get away with holding. At least in my limited time practicing offline, I disagree. Which, by the way, I'm also going to go check out the live stream in the comments. There's nothing. Looks like no one's even watching right now. The thing that I have found with holding is that with a higher slider, they tend, in my opinion, my perception, they tend to block longer or whatever. They tend to be more likely to actually hold. they'll actually hold on to the blocks but not commit the holding penalty. They'll actually like grab on and like they'll block better and longer with a higher holding threshold. And they're willing to risk getting the flag. I don't know how else you want to put it. But it felt like when the holding was low, it really felt like they would just give up blocks like instantly, slide release, like they would just let the guy off. Right? It almost felt like they weren't willing to actually commit the penalty. I know there's like the reverse side of like, oh, well, it mentally tells the computer like we're never going to get called, so we can cheat as much as we want and we can hold as long as we want. I almost feel like it's almost the opposite. It's like, shit, we can never hold, we can never like hang on, we're never even going to threaten a hold, we're just going to let go like instantly. There's no will. It's like the coach saying you can never, like you must never get a holding. You must never get a holding. It's like, okay, well, we're going to be really passive in our blocking and never risk it. You know, risk it for the biscuit, whatever. So I'm playing with like 55-ish holding, and I find that you'll get the flag thrown, and you get longer blocks in my just weird perception. So it's my own view. I tried it. I tried it lower to get better blocking, but I feel I got better blocking out of like 55, 56 holding to the point like that they would hold too much. So at the sake of rambling, let's get back to this topic, which is exactly what he talks about right here. Okay, great. The holding slider. Common sense says this should be the counter to the roughing the passer. If you're talking about hanging on, I guess. But I think it might actually be the counter to rush defense. Like, okay, I get that. Okay, it says, I think the pass defense slider is counter to roughing the passer. The pass defense slider. Oh, I think he talks about this like in his follow-up or whatever. Pass blocking slider, not pass defense slider. Yeah, I think he said that. Also, the slider sets from 2 different games or da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. The pass blocking slider is counter to roughing the passer. The pass blocking is counter to roughing the passer. I don't know. We can look at that. The run blocking slider would affect awareness and ability to reach second-level blocks correctly. Yes, I do agree with that. The quality of the blocks and everything. Just as on the other side, pass blocking slider, let's highlight it, would help reading and picking up blitzers and stunts. I do agree with that. I know that when you lower it too much, they get stupid. And that's an issue. We think of holding as what stops elite pass rushers from getting their sack totals, but in this game, it's the thing that calls back your big runs. And it's supposed to anyway. Yeah, on the run plays, like with the holding penalty, right? Like you get outside and then there's like a flag and you have to come back. Yeah, it's a big deal. I don't even know if this game actually calls holding on pass plays. Like they block too long and they hold. I don't even pay attention to that. Though I usually see clipping being a running play penalty. There is holding too, but I see clipping being the big thing. Especially on pulling plays and all that. Then he says, I think the trick is finding the spots on the sliders where they're close without compressing everyone into elite animations, or without decompressing everyone where they seem average. Kind of like the speed parity slider set to 0 does. Yeah, when it's set to 0, like the fastest guy is super fast and everyone else slow is super slow, whereas 100 everyone is just like average, right? No, I mean I get that. I fundamentally like disagree, and maybe like Denny's right. That's what I'm saying. I'm open-minded. I'm willing to listen. I don't feel that the roughing the passer affects the pass rush. Maybe it does. Maybe that's like the weird balance. Is like I'm trying to like get penalties, but also I'm hurting my pass rush. The biggest thing, like to both Denny and the chat, is I feel that the pass rush is too powerful right now. I feel that weaker pass rushers are getting in. And there's way too many, like, 4 or 5 guys just getting in unreleased at the quarterback. I think it's too high. And that's something that we're trying to pay attention to here. We see matchups where the offensive line should be winning most of the time. If not, like, all the time, because they have just such a huge advantage. Because even whenever the defense wins, they win with a pass rushing move that's like a 68 or whatever versus a guy who's like 83. Right, not exactly 20 points, but like 15 plus points or whatever ahead. I'm not going to do the math of my example. I'm just using an example of an example. And Denny here says, I don't believe the penalty sliders affect the frequency at which penalties are called. I definitely say that they do for holding, clipping, face masking, and roughing the passer. I'll say that for punt return, kick return interference, they do as well. I found when that was too high, they would intentionally just run into the fair catch guy all the time. I would say those make a difference. I would say false start makes a difference. Like, they just do false starts. Other ones, not so much, and I would agree. But I don't say that this is 100% true. It's how often they're committed, but it says affect the frequency at which they're called. It's how often they're committed. I mean, what's the difference there? I'm sorry, I feel stupid right now. I don't believe they affect the frequency at which penalties are called. It's how often they're committable. I mean, you should call the penalties when they're committed, right? I mean, like, in real life, we can talk about the fact that the officials are throwing flags on plays that are clean. I mean, that's a whole other issue. But, I mean, in terms of a video game, ideally, the refs won't be throwing flags against phantom calls, right? Sounds like word salad, yeah, kinda. But I don't think it is, okay? Hence why players are ultra aggressive at zero. I mean, I will agree with that to a degree. Because basically the refs aren't watching for that and the players know it. I mean, yeah, I do agree with that for the most part. I think there's something to be said about how the intentional grounding set to zero makes the quarterback smarter. I don't know. We need that. I would rather have the quarterback smart and then dumb them down because we've already seen them be complete morons. All that to say, I think that we are there. It's just a matter of finding the sweet spots, the proper ratios between proper counter sliders. I don't know that any of this actually helps. I don't know anything, whatever. I'll go back to our streams and all that if we notice anything. Yeah, that's the issue at this point. Let's go back to the video game here. I want to make sure that I address that we talk about this here. And I'm just kind of looking at the time. We're like getting close to half an hour, and we haven't done anything yet. But talking is really important because it sets the stage for what we're doing. I think the lower face mask, I tried it with the intention to get better tackles, and I don't see it. Like, I see that having face masks like closer to 55 or whatever, 54, they'll actually like be more aggressive in the tackling. And because they're like willing to get the flag, like the game is like, it's more likely to do the flag animation. It feels like they're more aggressive. Like the idea, the thought of like what Denny was saying, like the closer it is to zero, more it tightens it up. So I was figuring that they're going to be like just cleaner hits. I would love to see just good football and good clean hits. I'd play with zero face mask, just so everyone has nice clean hits and they're not yanking face masks around. I don't know. I want to see the aggressive hits too, and I don't know if that's adjusted aggressive hits, but I think it's connected. And we were playing with 30 defensive pass interference. We're going to go to 0, okay? And we're also going to look at, again, that idea of the pass blocking versus the pass rush. So, the only player, and we've established this in other videos, that has a decent pass rush is number 95, who I think even has 95 exactly. It might be a different number. Power moves. And it's like, spin moves are definitely a finesse move. I believe the swim move is considered a finesse move, and it's the rip move that is the power move. And he's losing this fight, which is good. And this is what I mean about like the holding block, is I think this weird little like he's willing to commit the risk of a holding penalty to maintain a block, where maybe he wouldn't do that when it's like closer to 0. Does that make sense? And it's like the defender trying to show the referee like I'm being held. Like look at his arms, like the way they're getting jerked around, if that makes any sense. So I don't mind getting sacked from a free rusher like this or getting hit. We're just kind of looking at battles here. And it's like, maybe this is a power move, maybe it's a finesse move. I don't know what they want to call it. You are using your strength to like slap arms away or whatever. Right? But instead of like, there's like bull rush and there's rip move. There's this move that 45 is throwing. Right, there's some power moves. The finesse moves are definitely spin move. I think swim as well. And that's where, again, we get to this issue of what's the matchup. So let's go to our offensive line and just kind of show you here. We've seen it before if you watch my videos, so maybe you can skip ahead, like fast forward, whatever. But where is pass blocking? Because they don't have pass blocking footwork and all that stuff anymore. They got rid of that. They never actually added it to the NCAA games. 91, 92, 83, 83, and 81. So our weakest is our right tackle. Right? But we've got 90s on the left side, 2 83s and an 81. Okay? Now let's just take a look at that defensive line. So number 95, we're going to look at power and finesse moves. Right? There's block sheddings for run defense. 98 power moves. So if you want to say the swim, which I think is a finesse move, like, he lost. And I'm fine with him losing with 74 finesse moves and the right tackle being an 81 pass blocker. But who won? It was like the defensive tackles, who also don't exactly have moves. Now our center is like 83, but it's like 10 points higher. And we're losing here. And the right end, he's got 82 power moves, but he's going up against like a 90-something pass blocker. So the only thing that should really stand in our way, is the left end using power moves on us. Otherwise, we should just completely shunt them out. And that's one of the issues here. So you go into here, and my pass blocking is set to 75. And I've really considered it 80 or 85 at some point. I think I was playing with 85 for the computer. Because it's like, give me a break, man. Like, if I'm 10 points better, and in other cases even better than that, like, give me a break. So we were, again, going with Flanker Dagger. And we were going to look at Overstorm Brave. Now, we take the sack, and that's fine. There's a free rusher. But here's what I mean with going with the swim move. And that's a difference maker right there. Right? He's trying to, but fails. And while he's off the block, he's going to get caught again. Right? 98 power moves. This is where we get to the weird part, is he should win this. He's trying to rip through. How is he not winning that move? That's the frustrating part. Like, how do we have it set up where the guys who are like worse by 10 points are beating us, but the guys who beat us by like 18, 17 points are losing? It's a rough one out there, folks. It's a rough one out there to get right. And I understand what Denny is saying. And like, if we want to improve his ability to pass rush or whatever, maybe we should lower the roughing the passer. And if that's a point, like, I get it. I take it. I'm just kind of watching things, and I didn't actually watch the matchup out there in the wide receiver world. But if we look at what's going on, see, like, I like the fact that 65, like, they're fighting. Like, they're trying to fight. And it's like he's trying to use a power move right here. He's trying to throw him off. Doesn't have any business getting past us. The guy who truly gets past us is the guy who has, like, the 98 power moves. And he is winning here. Like, that's definitely a win. He gets off the ball, engages in a block, applies his first move, and wins. That's something we want to see. So right now with 75, like, I feel good. Number 2, remember, he's 93 ability versus 90 ability. What I don't like is this massive gap. I don't like this massive gap that he gives him. Right? Let's say, RB, you're going to pass block for me. I don't really care about the result of that play, so much as we just see the animations. Okay, I like the fact that we still see some locking up here. Maybe the fact that he won earlier is just a coincidence. I'd like to see more of a win here. Like, I might even be willing to lower it from 75 to 70. Because I like the way the other guys are getting locked up. We can see on the drag here, like, they should be dominating us, and they are. And I also mentioned that, remember, it is cover 0, and he is trying to make sure that we don't get beat over the top. So having inside breaking routes, underneath breaking routes, they have to leave a cushion to a certain extent. Right? They do. Now, let's compare that to, again, running the same play, flanker dagger, with 2 man under. So that's where they're going to take away every underneath route. Now, you see our quarterback, he has to scramble, and he freaks out. Again, why? Because we've got a guy who's like in the 70s, 60s, like 78 power versus 83. We have the 5-point advantage. We should be winning that fight. It's a little weird. Throwing the hands off. There he's winning the power moves. Right? Locked up here. So remember, it's cover 2. It's going to be a bunch of different way of playing. I definitely like the fact that covering something underneath, he doesn't do that weird jerky, like, running like 10 yards off. Because that's what we see in Madden. Because in Madden, I try to play with 99 pass interference. Because I used to think, like, hey, we're going to get a flag. And they would jump like 10 yards out and then come back in. And I really do feel that the defensive pass interference slider has an impact here on how tight they play the coverage. I personally think it does. And you see the way he's running with him, trying to cut off something underneath. Now, another layer. It was really recommended to play with 60 pass coverage online on Operation Sports. Doesn't mean anything. We're going to see for ourselves. But one of the things not covered by Denny, and one of the things that we need to discuss, when I think it was Madden 19, Madden 20, whatever, which they're all like, this is the same game, bro. You know they're the same game. They have like minor changes, but it's the same coding. You can't tell us that the games are different and they're the same. You can't complain that Madden is the same every year and then say it's also completely different. Like, you don't get it both ways. The code, like the hex editor or whatever it was that people broke for the PC version of the game, discussed how the man in the zone coverage ratings, like especially the zone coverage rating, but the man coverage rating as well, like, it had less to do with the coverage that it's covering. It had to do with comparing it against the catch and traffic rating. So especially the zone coverage rating didn't have to do with how well they covered a zone. Play recognition had to do with how well they covered patterns. And zone coverage primarily had to do with how well they broke up passes. And it was checked against the catch and traffic rating. We also know from discussing Madden 14, and it's been documented many times over, how the coverage slider is inverted for some reason. And we get tighter, better coverage the closer to 0 we get in Madden. I don't know if that's the case here in this game. I really don't. I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to go back to 60. I'm willing to go up to 80, 90, 100, whatever we need. I want to see how the coverage is. And we're going to go here to standard pass. And we're going to go again to flanker dagger. 2 man under. Drop back. It's going to get hit. I don't know if it makes a difference on the press coverage, the quality of press coverage or not. I do find it's interesting that the quarterback like hits his drop back, he makes a little move, and our guys are not even in their pattern yet, like ready to go. Also, you see here the cushion he gives up, I don't know. It's too hard to tell. But then you can see here how he like instantly jumps. Like, is it an inverted slider? Like, look at how he instantly jumps there. Drop back, just stand there, stand there, stand there. And I understand the idea of like how aggressively they play the ball in the air, though I think some of that has to do with interception. Some of it is how likely they are to catch a pick. I think interception slider has also how much they're going to go for a pick versus a swat as well. So again, I was user controlling it here. You can see the gaping difference here. How quickly he instantly reacts to it. It's a little rough. $60 was constantly recommended. And we're going to need multiple passes to see the impact across multiple plays. But if he drops back and he waits and he looks and he's throwing it out of bounds, and let's reset it again. And I want to see the coverage out there with this. I don't see a physical difference here. I don't see a difference at all. Right? Whether it be 0 or 100. Like, let's run more plays, but I'm not seeing a difference in terms of the physical act of coverage. It could be the press. Like, it could have an impact there. But I'm not seeing a difference in the reaction. Right? I'm seeing the same thing over and over again. So, the highly recommended one, the one that I was getting success with, that I was getting joy from, was having human and computer set to 60. Now, the next aspect is, as we mentioned, this custom AI, no, game rules. Defensive pass interference. I think we had it at 30 when we just came in. We're going to check it at 20. Actually, let's check it at like 100 or whatever. Let's check it at the flip side of things. But I'm pretty sure it's going to open up because I think I play with 99, 100, whatever in Madden. Because again, I wanted to see the penalty. And I wasn't thinking about how penalty sliders like impact gameplay. That's not what I wanted. So let's hit the back button. Standard pass, flanker dagger. 2-man under. Okay, so he gets like no press at all. You see, he gives up like no ground. He gives up no ground. That's so interesting. He's still jumping the route. Yeah, he's giving up like no ground at all. Which is what we want, both in the cover 2 and the fact that he is outmatching the wide receiver. This is the wide receiver with 90 route running. I believe this is the corner with 93 man coverage. So it's like he's just right on top of him wherever he goes. And this is the guy who's like 1 point better. And he's also in the elite category. Let's look at some other plays here, so we can make some more comparisons. And that's where I was trying to save this play smash. So we're going to go 4-3. We're going to kick the linebackers over the tight end. We're going to still call cover 2 man. And now we're going to try to see if the corners still lock up our wide receivers, but if we can get our tight end winning in man coverage here. He does win in man coverage. Right. Like, he just breaks off. And the reaction time is, like, really tight, though, as well. And again, you can see instantly jumping it. I think that's very interesting. Drop back, just leave it alone, let them do their routes. Get sacked, I don't care, because we're not trying to throw it. We're just trying to look at animations here. Who gets the sack? The defensive line just fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. I don't like the fact that 98 power move guy is losing, but he's also trying to spin move, which is a finesse move. He makes contact, and the first thing he wants to do is spin, and then use another finesse move. So that's like a whole mess into and of itself. Again, you can see this route just being picked up, which we kind of want. Rolling with it. Yeah, these are the starting corners. Yeah, not getting burnt at all, which is a good thing. Not getting burnt at all. But he outmatches the opposition. I'm willing to take a guess that defensive pass interference, at least it looks right now on the surface, like it has a pretty big impact on the quality of the coverage and the reaction time. It's what it feels like. So let's go with X under. I like the fact that in X under we literally have an inside breaking route and a little whippy route, which means in man coverage we should see some action happening here. Yeah. There's like the press. He's running in front of it and inside release, which is also where you want to cover in your position. They kind of get a little bit lost with the running back versus getting like out route run. It's very interesting. I think we want to be closer to here, and we can dial it up. But I think the defensive pass interference has an impact in a positive way of how tight that they'll play coverage. Like that. But again, our tight end should be causing problems. To some extent, he is. Especially this little confusing mess. I think it's very interesting. And I think if we counter test it, if we go back to the other extreme, I wonder how they'll play the same play. That little whippy route. Under. With 2 men under. Yeah, usually you gotta reset the play. And if there's no difference, that's a whole other issue into and of itself. Because you just have the quality of 2 men under, like, in action. Damn. You can see how quickly he reacts, which isn't a bad thing. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I think I want to play like this. I'm going to try like a little base like that. And I think we want to try both sides. I think we also want to go back to X under and try a play like open fire. So they're instead of cover 2 where they're protecting against inside breaking stuff. How well do they handle other situations, other contexts? They're trying to prevent from getting beat deep, but they still handle it really well. And you see, he, I believe, is getting beat with some separation here. I think the corner is backpedaling, sees the inside break, and then breaks on the ball. I think he does a fine job. If we do whip unders, and let's try something simple like cover 3. Like we talked about man. Quarterback will just hit the spot, which is good. So we can go to unders against under. And let's look at a little cover 1 action. Slant crash left. It feels like it's good. Like he's backing off and we're winning a route underneath it. The defense is here playing off, but can instantly recognize and react to a route. Yeah, I think it's solid. I think we have some like really solid coverage and some really solid plays here. Where the guy who's like much better is like winning a route. Same thing kind of happening here. I think the ball is already out. Yeah, that's the problem. So we can't get a true judgment on that route. But if I just drop back, don't push anything, and then I get sacked. Okay, I get sacked by a guy who shouldn't have gotten free in the first place. I don't mind this getting free, but the other guy, yeah, whatever. Very interesting. I think we have something interesting going on here. And let's take a look at both sides. Yeah. I kind of think I want this. Kind of think I want all of that. I'm not saying it's perfect. But I think we have something interesting here as we're getting near the hour mark. And it's worth like saving and quitting. And it's going to be worth next time I go live to start bringing us gameplay with matchups. Right now it's getting to be 11:30. We've been online for an hour. We talked about a bunch of ideas. I'm tired. I'm yawning. I'm feeling like hazy, even like losing like my focus and my vision. But what I want to do is I want to start getting games with you. I want to start showing you matchups, and I want to start reversing them too. I want to be Oregon State versus Boise State. Right? I want to see how we do on both sides. That's the kind of stuff I want to bring you when we go live next time. So hopefully this was an interesting little 1 hour, less than 1 hour adventure. And we've got everything saved. We've discussed where we're at. I think it's just time to start playing games, y'all. And I'll see you on the other side.